Tick-tock, doom's a-comin! With the final act of the Multiverse Saga finally in sight, we've got the lowdown on the fan-favorite theory about the Avengers Doomsday countdown clock. If you're wondering why anyone would take the time to pore over those Doomsday trailers looking for hints and clues about the movie itself, you can blame these guys.
I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I know you can't.
Even if we were going to, we couldn't tell you.
One of the reasons fans have claimed there's something more to those teaser countdowns is the simple fact that Doomsday directors Joe and Anthony Russo have already confirmed that the Thor trailers have a deeper meaning. After the Wakanda trailer dropped, they wrote on Instagram, "What you've been watching for the last 4 weeks are not teasers or trailers. They are stories. They are clues. Pay attention."
You know, I think these movies are going to be a surprise.
Since the numbers prior to the countdown clocks are a recurring feature in the trailers, one that can't be readily explained, they become a natural target for fan theorists. Lots of this is open to interpretation, but the basic gist of the most popular theory surrounding these codes is that they relate to timestamps from Avengers Endgame. If we follow that line of reasoning, here's what they might be telling us. Quick disclaimer before we get into this, we're not even going to try reading these codes out, so you may want to pay attention. The clock in the Steve Rogers trailer blinks this code before the countdown itself begins. Following this into Endgame, 1:24:20 takes the viewer to the scene in which the Ancient One and Bruce Banner meet during the time heist.
Chronologically, in that reality, it never left.
Here, Bruce's attempt to take the Time Stone from the deceptively frail-looking Ancient One soon turns into an impassioned debate over the nature of reality. As the Ancient One tells Bruce, removing an Infinity Stone from its place in the timeline will cause the timeline to branch out, creating alternate realities. Basically, the kind of thing that Miss Minutes would put you in the cube for. So how does this relate to the now retired Cap of Avengers Doomsday? Well, at the end of Endgame, Steve solves this problem by returning the Infinity Stones to their rightful spots in time. According to fan theories, however, Steve's actions, either during his mission or after he chooses to remain in the past, may cause some serious problems of their own. As one Redditor suggests, this confirms that Steve's mission to return the stones and his subsequent decision to stay in the past is central to the conflict. It suggests his actions may have inadvertently triggered an incursion. The second Doomsday trailer concerns Thor, who's clearly experienced yet another personality shift in the wake of all this.
Flick too hard, damn it!
The Thor trailer ends with this code, which translates to 1:17:20 in Avengers Endgame. That takes us to the scene in which Loki is captured by the Avengers during the botched time heist in New York. As we know, of course, he doesn't stay captured for long. This is a pivotal scene in the MCU for several reasons. Not only does this Loki variant go on to become the hero of his own eponymous series, but he also ends that series by becoming the god of stories, giving freedom to the multiverse by holding every timeline together. Considering Earth 616's prime Loki died at the hands of Thanos in Avengers Infinity War, it makes a lot of sense that the franchise would pivot to this variant instead. Because if Tom Hiddleston wants to come back, you let him.
Surprise!
It's almost a dead cert that this version of Loki will play a pivotal role in Avengers Doomsday. Perhaps more exciting, though, is the significance of the code in Thor's trailer leading to the moment that his story began. Could this be teasing the long-awaited reunion between the God of Stories and the God of Thunder? That much, at least, remains to be seen. The X-Men trailer is the point at which this fan theory gets a little murky. The trailer code and corresponding 1:11:20 timestamp sends you to the scene in Endgame in which Rocket witnesses Thor's panic attack in the past version of Asgard. Some of the proponents of the trailer code theory have suggested that this might point to the X-Men's erasure from the timeline, or simply the emotional tone of Doomsday itself. To be honest, this all seems a bit more far-fetched than the theories concerning the first two trailers. Fortunately, other fans have provided slightly more palatable explanations for this code. One Redditor, for example, theorized that the Endgame scene in question could be a reference to another notable crying Thor moment from recent years, the scene in Deadpool and Wolverine in which a TVA screen shows Thor weeping over a dying Deadpool.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Maybe then, this trailer's timecode is a hint that Deadpool will have a role to play in Avengers Doomsday, and that we'll get some kind of payoff to that scene from Deadpool and Wolverine. Maybe. The last of the 4 Doomsday teasers revolves around the unlikely pairing of the Wakandans and the Fantastic Four.
King M'Baku of Wakanda.
Ben, Yancey Street, between Broome and Grand.
The code here goes to 10420 in Avengers Endgame, which is a scene in which the Avengers plan their time heist.
Not it.
While somewhat less specific than some of the other Endgame scenes, this one does make a certain amount of sense. All the previous trailers' references are about the multiverse branching in some way, shape or form. The ancient one explaining the nature of timeline branches, Loki escaping with the Tesseract, and possibly Deadpool witnessing a version of events that he's unfamiliar with. According to this fan theory, the 4th scene could confirm that the Avengers meddling with the powers of time travel could be the root of the conflict in Avengers Doomsday. If we want to tie in these theories with the actual plot of Doomsday, we need to tackle a very specific concept. One first introduced to the MCU in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's a word that will be quite familiar to fans of the comics, as well as anyone who spent any time engaging in fan theories over the last few years. Incursions. As Stephen Strange learns in Multiverse of Madness, an incursion is the ultimate multiversal foobar. Essentially, it's a collision of 2 universes, leading to the destruction of one or both of them.
Everyone in that reality died. Everyone.
The title of the upcoming sequel to Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars, points towards incursions becoming an instrumental part of the story. There are 2 major Secret Wars comic book events, and it's a 2015 version that revolves heavily around incursions. In that storyline, these events force the heroes and villains from different universes to fight for their own survival. Now, it does bear mentioning that both Doctor Strange and Clea are absent from the list of announced Avengers Doomsday characters. However, they were last seen entering Clea's native Dark Dimension to fix an incursion at the end of Multiverse of Madness, so they're clearly supposed to be closely connected to the concept. One intriguing fan theory suggests that, like in the 2015 Secret Wars comic, Strange will join Doctor Doom's side in Doomsday or Secret Wars, having been convinced to work with him to prevent the end of reality. It wouldn't exactly be out of character for him, considering what went down with the Strange of Earth 838. We know that the Thor trailer's timestamp suggests that this more heroic and yet still deeply narcissistic version of Loki will factor into the plot of Avengers Doomsday. No surprise then that Doomsday seems to be leaning heavily on the idea of alternate universes and timelines. For this reason, Loki is absolutely recommended viewing ahead of the film's arrival, if only because the Loki variant at its center is now the literal center of every timeline in the Marvel multiverse. The series also highlights the concept of different timelines featuring radically different versions of the same character, as well as a timeline policing time variance authority and 2 variants of the now abandoned MCU big bad Kang the Conqueror. Or, not. More than that though, Loki is an exploration of identity and purpose. At the end of the 2nd season, Loki finds his own glorious purpose by fixing the timelines and guarding them as the god of stories. If the stars align and Marvel's own god of stories is feeling generous, we might get a situation in which the Loki of Loki becomes one of the protagonists of Doomsday. Some fans have suggested that he might even act as a kind of Nick Fury-esque figure, bringing together a team of heroes from across the multiverse to take on Doctor Doom. Considering the reason why the actual Nick Fury brought together the Avengers to begin with, this could well make for the perfect ending to Loki's story in the MCU. Let's circle back to Deadpool for a minute. While Wade Wilson doesn't seem to be particularly connected to the grander events of the MCU, his trajectory has nevertheless brought him closer and closer to the mainstream.
I am Marvel Jesus.
Across his film franchise, Deadpool has been loosely associated not only with the X-Men, but also with time travel. As far back as Deadpool 2, he got his hands on a time travel device that allowed him to access alternate timelines. Deadpool and Wolverine takes things even further, of course. This movie introduced multiple variants of both of its title characters and reintroduced several key concepts from Loki, including the time variance authority and the timeline garbage disposal dimension known as the Void. Since Deadpool and Wolverine is one of the most gung-ho MCU movies when it comes to multiversal antics, that moment in which Thor cries over a dying Deadpool may turn out to have some significance after all. Certainly a more serious Thor could fill a kind of straight man role that would fit right in with Deadpool's overall vibe, making the God of Thunder a natural scene partner for the Merc with the Mouth. Of course, how they might end up experiencing a beat-for-beat remake of the ending of Thor: The Dark World is anyone's guess. Something that comes to mind when looking at that Doomsday cast list is the distinct absence of one of the MCU's most notorious timeline breakers. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is notably missing from the cast announcements so far, and none of these fan theories take Spider-Man No Way Home into consideration, despite the fact that it's one of the franchise's most multiverse-heavy entries. So what gives? To an extent, the lack of Spidey so far makes a bit of sense, since the character's next big moment in the limelight will come months before Avengers Doomsday. Spider-Man Brand New Day is set to premiere on July 31st, 2026, and while this movie seems to be a more street-level story for everyone's favorite wall crawler, it could also address his role in the grand scheme of things. No doubt, Peter Parker will have a much bigger role to play when Secret Wars comes around. As for those other Spider-Men out there have been plenty of rumors suggesting that, at the very least, Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker could play a part in the events of Doomsday. Even if he doesn't, it's probably a safe bet that both him and Andrew Garfield's Peter will turn up for the Multiverse Saga's curtain call.
I love you guys. Thank you.
You've probably noticed that one man has been missing from all of this rampant theorizing. Dr. Doom, the villain who gives Avengers Doomsday its name, is nowhere to be seen in the teaser trailers. So far, the most we've seen of him is a brief glimpse in the post-credit scene in Fantastic Four: First Steps. As you're probably aware, Marvel replaced Jonathan Majors Kang with Dr. Doom as the Multiverse Saga's ultimate villain, which means that Doom has inherited an absolute ton of storylines and timeline antics to juggle. And according to the fan theory we've been discussing, the timestamp moments in the trailers have doubled as hints about the villain's true motivations in Doomsday. All 4 moments point to Avengers Endgame scenes that led to the timeline breaking, suggesting that the Avengers time heist is a cause of the multiverse's woes. As such, it could be the case that Doom is out to stop the incursions from destroying reality, while using the crisis for his own ends. Regardless of what happens, and whether any of this turns out to be correct, you can expect the MCU's very foundations to shatter when Avengers Doomsday hits theaters on December 18th, 2026.